What's up YouTube? My name is Gilly. Welcome to the channel if you've never been here, and for those of you returning, welcome back. Today it's raining outside, so we're not going to be playing disc golf outside unfortunately, but we will be learning how to hot dip dye your discs. Now for a hot dip dye, that kind of requires more material and more stuff than a shaving cream dye. And it's a little bit longer of a process if you don't know how to make a stencil. And just so you guys know, I've already made our stencils for today. We've got two that we're gonna do. We're gonna do Jigglypuff from Pokemon, because I'm a nerd. And we're also gonna do Satoru Gojo, because I'm an anime nerd. All right, cool. So now that we've got that out of the way, you can see those stencils are done. So we're gonna pick up in the process of after the stencils have been made. But making a stencil is a different video for a different day, so please don't get too mad at me for not teaching you that. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. All right guys, so as you can see, I've got Pikachu, or not Pikachu, excuse me, I've got Jigglypuff down on the stencil here, and I've got some tape around the outside. That's just because the Cricut maker that I use cuts a square around the outside of my stencil every time I do it. I'm not quite sure why it does that, but I've just made a habit of putting tape over top of here so that there aren't any bleeds in the dye or on the disc after you pull it up out of the dye, and you guys will see what all that means in a little bit. So the first thing that we need is going to be contact paper or transfer tape, whatever name you like to call it. But we're going to apply this as carefully as we can and try to get as little air bubbles as possible. But the reason we're doing this is so that we can transfer Jigglypuff onto the disc that we are going to dye, so that the dye can soak into these places where there aren't any. But it is pretty self-explanatory. All right, so I put the middle down first, and then I just lightly let the rest kind of get some attachment on there. And then I'm gonna take my 2022 PDGA member card and smooth out the edges like this. Now there is one air bubble that I'm seeing automatically, but it's nowhere near the stencil. It's just right here outside the edge. So I'll try to push that out. And you're just really trying to go as slowly and cleanly as you can here. I know I'm moving kind of quick, but that's just because of the YouTube algorithm. That was a very, very, very niche community type of joke. Alrighty, so as far as I can see, it doesn't look like we have a lot of bubbles. Like I said, I am moving a little quick here. Alright, so the next part that we're gonna handle is peeling the backing off of the black vinyl. So we're going to pick this up and flip her over. And this can be challenging sometimes, and the reason being for that is because sometimes the stencil doesn't want to pick up off the paper. Yes, all right. So finally, after some deliberation, I've gotten the vinyl to start peeling off on the bottom. Alrighty, so I'm just gonna keep that placed down as best I can. And as I start to peel away, I'm gonna keep all of this as flat as possible and kind of push on it that way. That way, when I get to a part where it has the stencil, that sticker piece doesn't have any choice but to stay down, because I'm pushing it flat down onto the transfer tape. And I just go diagonal. Yep, see, like I was talking about there, the sticker started to come up. So I just push it down like that. Hope that it stays down. Sometimes they like to be difficult. Yep, this might be one of those days. And if that happens, then I'll just slow it down and go smaller piece by smaller piece. Sometimes I'll use my finger to hold it in place, but it's not always the best idea. But if you need the piece to sit down, you can always take something and hold it. Doesn't always work the best, but it does work. Okay. Ooh, okay, so now we've got a little bit of an interesting problem here. That vinyl piece is starting to peel up like a sticker backing and not come off the vinyl. So I'm gonna take care of this and I will time speed this up so that you guys can see how I do this. This doesn't always happen, but it can be a tricky issue to fix. Alrighty guys, so we did have a little bit of trouble getting the backing paper off. The eye part right here and right here, not all the decals wanted to come up the right way, but that's okay. We just decided to make a little bit of an adjustment so that it still looks like a normal Jigglypuff. It just looks more of like maybe a Halloween pumpkin stencil Jigglypuff, but that's okay. There is one thing I'm gonna try to fix. There's an air bubble pocket right here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna time speed this up again as I try to fix this. That way we don't waste too much time here. All right, maybe we don't need to time speed that up. That was really easy. Oh, wait, hold on, still got a little bit there. Alrighty, there we go. All right, so now we got our little Jigglypuff ready to go. I think we also missed some definition pieces in here, but that's okay. The next piece that we're gonna do is preparing the disc. For Jigglypuff, I thought, why not do a pink disc? So we are going to dye my Wild Disc Sea Otter. Now, as you can tell, that stamp is still on there, and that stamp is going to get in the way of trying to see that Jigglypuff stencil. So I like to use cotton rounds and acetone to remove these stamps. Typically, dark stamps are harder to remove, but I found with these kind of shiny foil stamps, they come off very easily. So I've got a big thing of acetone here. I'm gonna pop this open. And just as an important warning, kids, if you're doing this, you probably need a parent or some kind of supervisor, because we're messing with some chemicals and we're gonna be playing with heat here in a second, and that's dangerous. So if you're 18 and under, if you're not self-sufficient, you should probably get a helper to do this. But what I do is I roll that cotton round up just like this. I stick it in the top, let it soak some acetone in. Not too much, we don't want to put a lot of acetone onto the disc. And then I just kind of rub it like this, and you can watch it just disappear right off of the disc. Look at that sick, excuse me. Look at that sick pearly plastic. Okay, and then that has a little bit of a blue tint left on it, so I'm gonna go on there with some of the pieces now of the round that are not blue. Just go around and pick up that extra blue tint. Keep in mind with black stamps, those are typically the hardest to remove off of a disc because the black ink smears a lot when you use it. All right, the top of the disc off with water, just real quick. No need for it to be a long process. You just don't want any of that acetone to sit on top and eat through that plastic. All right, now the next part is gonna be putting this acetone away, getting it out of the way. Pulling our Jigglypuff over here. All right, this is the piece now where we're gonna take the disc and push it down onto the Jigglypuff. Typically this is easier with Lucid plastics, Z plastic, Champion plastic, anything that's translucent that you can see through. If it were a Wild Disc plastic, it would be called ozone plastic. So let's just go ahead and get this on here. And I just have this sticky tape on here so that you guys can't see my phone number and all that good information that no one needs to have. All right, so I just kind of go for it. Wherever I set it down is where it's gonna be, because once you go in for it, there's no fixing it and there's no going back. All right, let's turn her over real fast, see what we got going on. Alrighty, so from here you can go ahead and pull up that contact paper, but just like before, go slow, pull it at a diagonal angle. Just like that. We do not want anything to move. All right, there we go. Place that to the side. And then we do have a few air bubbles here and there. You want to make sure to look at it real close so you can see those air bubbles and try to push them out. I like to use my finger or my fingernail. Again, you can use your PDGA 2022 member card if you want to. And if you don't have one, you should get one, become a member of the PDGA. So, I am gonna go ahead and take it and fold it up and over like this and push it down. And then I'm gonna go to the next spot where I can grab it, grab there and do the same thing. And I'm just gonna repeat that pattern and go around the disc. One last piece right here. Sometimes it doesn't always come up even, so if you need to grab a piece of tape to stick something down, that's perfectly fine. Alrighty. I always end up using some supplemental pieces of tape anyways, just to make sure that it's not gonna give me any difficulty with trying to set my disc down into the dye bed. She is all covered up now, and we should be good to go. Like I said, I am nervous about this one little bubble spot right here, but at the end of the day, it'll be all right. All right, guys, so I do have my pan here set up with my black dye in it. For my black dye, I use Ritz synthetic dye. It comes in a bottle. I use a combination of they have like a charcoal gray, and then I mix it with their darkest navy blue and their darkest purple, and I get a pretty good black color. You can also just use regular black dye. That probably would work a lot better than what I have, but sometimes it's hard to find exactly what I need. All right, so I'm going to slide this pan over onto this side. And before I forget to say this, whatever pan you use or whatever you use to put dye in, whether it's a pan or anything, I don't care. Don't consume anything that comes out of it after you've used the dye. Like, don't try to cook food in it. Don't try to like make any food out of the same pan or insert whatever it is. Don't do that. Once you use this for dye, it is gonna be for dye for the rest of its life. All right, now that that's out of the way, what we're gonna do is we're gonna heat it up. I like to put it on low and slowly let it come to like just a little bit of a steaming rise. You don't want it to get hot so much to the point that it starts bubbling, because if it starts bubbling, then it's gonna start coagulating, and that's really, really gross. So once this thing starts to have a little bit of a steam to it, I will bring you guys back and we will run through what happens when you put the disc down on top of it. All right, guys, so it is starting to steaming now. So what I'm gonna do very carefully, and you should probably use safety mitts or like heat sensitive gloves, but I'm not the brightest in the box. So we're just gonna slowly slide this over to the other side carefully so that you don't spill it over the sides, and then turn that other eye off. If you are using a stove, you want it to be off. You don't want it to keep being hot. And you do have to move quickly here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it like this, and you just want to slowly come in at a small angle and press it down over top. And then from there, you should be able to set it down and just kind of let it float. And I do like to just kind of bounce it up and down a few times, try to feel that surface tension get set. That way I know the ink is getting onto the disc and that it's making full contact. And then kind of just slowly press around the center a little bit just to make sure everything's in there and set on there. And I'm gonna leave that for 5 minutes. And if that first 5 minutes isn't long enough, then I will do a repeat cycle by warming the dye back up again and setting the disc back down just like I did. So while I wait on this one, I'm gonna go ahead and put the stencil onto the other disc that we're dyeing, and I'll get that one started too. All right, guys, so I ended up doing 2 rounds of 5 minutes for that, and our Jigglypuff is looking pretty dark. I think you can already tell how dark that is compared to the other side. So we're gonna go ahead and take this vinyl paper off, and we will see what we got. All right, guys, there we go. We have got a beautiful, kind of almost creepy looking Jigglypuff, but that's fine. she still looks awesome and came out with very minimal bleeds. In fact, I don't see any on the rim at all, which is that's a milestone. I normally get some rim bleeds, but yeah, so far this is the absolute cleanest dye I have ever done. And that one spot we were worried about it's not even that bad. All right, guys, so I do have both of the discs done now. So here is Satoru Gojo. He's a little bit lighter than the first one. I wanted the dye to actually be in there lighter than it being really dark. I like the way that looks for him, for his character. And then we have the Jigglypuff done, and Jigglypuff does look pretty good in dark. It looks really great on that lava plastic. You guys should really try out this Sea Otter. This thing is amazing. Get your hands on this thing. The lava plastic feels amazing, and it's such a good throwing putter in this plastic. I putt with them in the baseline plastic, and that one's really good too. It kind of feels like holding on to an eraser, and when it gets wet, it still holds its grippiness. I could talk about the Sea Otter for days. It's my new favorite putter. But for right now, we've got the Jigglypuff Sea Otter, and yeah, it looks awesome. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today, and stay tuned. I've got some exciting stuff coming. Keep chasing those aces, guys.